Now, our first guest on our show today is from Wild West Chevrolet in Yerington. And what we want to point out is that as consumers, if you're used to or tired of, I should say, the typical games played by many of the local automotive dealerships, we want you to know that you don't have to play that routine any longer, that there's a dealership that treats people the way that you would want to be treated in the automotive industry. And probably one of the areas in the automotive industry that needs the most reform is in the dealership segment. What we're here to do is to help you learn what a quality dealership looks like, how they act, and why it's worth a drive to Yerington to visit Wild West Chevrolet. And to help you understand that today is Patty. Patty, are you with us?
I am.
Patty's on the line with us from Wild West Chevrolet. And prior interviews we've had with Wild West Chevrolet, we've talked to the owner, the general manager, the operations manager, and I'm really excited, Patty, to have you on the show today because you're the frontline guy that the consumer is going to come in and meet. And it really shows how proud Wild West is as a whole family. And if you will, take a minute and tell us a little bit about your years in the industry. I understand that you've had some experience at some large dealerships and left because of your personal integrity level and have found Wild West Chevrolet. And tell us a little bit about your past experience and why Wild West Chevrolet is your new home.
Well, hello, Mitch, and to everybody else out there. I, for the past 10 years, have worked on and off at dealerships, big and small, and I really, really enjoy what I do. I always have. But at some point in time, I got fed up with how everything works, at a big dealership, whether it be in California, Nevada. You've got to jump through hoops to come up with, a fair price. And here at Wild West Chevrolet, what we offer is fair pricing to everyone, every time.
Well, let's describe the process so that people know that you know what you're talking about at most dealerships.
At most dealerships, the salesperson couldn't pull out an invoice and show you what the invoice is. It would take hours to come to that point. You'd have to talk to the salesman, the sales manager. The sales manager would have to talk to the desk. And there's multiple people and multiple hours it would take to actually see what the vehicle, cost.
And what do you think the purpose or the motivation for businesses that operate that type of dealership is?
It's to maximize profit.
Well, and I think something very interesting that we've talked about before, and this is the first time for our 96.1 FM listeners to hear this, so if you don't mind, I'd like you to take a minute and talk about the difference between a factory sticker and a non-factory dealer markup sticker that some dealerships employ.
What an addendum sticker is, or a bump sticker, or an additional dealer markup. It is a number that a big dealership comes up with that they feel the vehicle's worth above and beyond what the manufactured suggested retail price is. Here at Wild West Chevrolet, we don't have any addendum stickers unless we've added additional equipment to the vehicle for you.
Well, and let's say this about the addendum stickers. Basically, they're sometimes not even there because a vehicle is a higher demand vehicle and low supply markups. They're just an artificial starting point at a higher number designed to end at a higher number or maximize profits again.
Or to show you a larger discount.
Well, and you had mentioned the difference at Wild West. So when somebody goes onto other dealers' lots, they typically are going to get jumped. They're before they get out of their car, and then they're going to be also then shown a vehicle by a lot of times a less qualified representative. I understand that you have some credentials at your dealership.
I've been certified to sell GM vehicles since 2003. I'm a certified sales professional. A lot of the people at a lot of different dealerships, especially big dealerships, the guys don't know what they're talking about. They'll make up stuff. They don't know how to deliver a vehicle. I pride myself in all of that.
So you're talking about when you do deliver a vehicle, doing things like helping them set their radio stations to programming their Bluetooths and a complete knowledge of how to operate everything on the vehicle.
Absolutely, and hooking up OnStar and going through the values of everything that GM and Chevrolet has to offer.
Well, and the other thing, I think the biggest thing that you mentioned in the certification process is knowledge, product knowledge, and being able to give accurate information. It's big, and I think it's exceptional that you're a credentialed, certified General Motors Chevrolet salesman. The other thing that they typically would go through is that process of, again, misinformation, and then a lot of dealerships trying to settle them on a car they want to sell, not necessarily the one best for their needs. But again, that's not the approach you take.
No, absolutely. I'm going to show you the vehicle that best suits your needs and the one that you want to buy. It doesn't make a difference to me which one you purchase. I'm going to enjoy selling the vehicle to you.
Well, I think what's brilliant about this whole philosophy is that it breeds longer-term relationships, and that, you know, when Don Lindbergh, the owner, was on our show, he talked about how in Yerington it's a small community. You just can't get away with treating people the way they do sometimes here in Reno. No,
absolutely. I've been here 2 years now. I love it. And I have so many repeat customers, or so many people that come into service. And, hey, Patty, and, you know, I know them. And even if they don't live here, I still remember them and know them. And I tell everybody when I deliver a vehicle, because there is so much stuff on vehicles nowadays, that when you do find something that you don't know how to do, come back in and see me and I'll show you.
Well, and let's talk about, we talked about the fact that you don't employ these bump sticker techniques to try to maximize profits. But one of the other things that we talked about prior was, and you just started to touch on the fact that you can provide this, is that a consumer could go on your website, look at your inventory, your new car inventory, for an example, and find a stock number and call you up, the salesman. And you said you don't have to jump through those hoops of a normal dealership. So let's describe that process of what it takes for me to call and get a price, rather than the typical, I'm going to be sat in a room and I'm going to go back and forth with this negotiation process against highly trained negotiators that negotiate for a living every day of their life. And that's not the process with you. If I call you up on the phone, let's talk about what kind of price do I get and how long does it take to get it?
I'm going to try to give you a price quote within 60 seconds. For example, NCO 91, which is a 2012 Malibu LT. It's got a 2.4-liter four-cylinder engine, 33 miles per gallon on the highway. It also has Bluetooth, which I'm going to hook up for you. It's got, it's nicely equipped. MSRP on this vehicle is $24,790. Now, on every invoice, there is what's called preferred pricing. Preferred pricing is what I would buy the vehicle for. It's employee pricing. Preferred pricing on this vehicle is $23,963. There's an additional $3,000 factory rebate. I would quote you a price on the phone within 60 seconds, hopefully. Sometimes maybe a little more, depending on how I've got to find the car in the book. But I would quote you a price of $20,963 plus tax and fees.
Well, and I want our listeners to hear this, because if you're out looking for a Chevrolet this weekend, you've got to know that this is available to you. The preferred pricing you're talking about, some of our listeners may remember a few years ago, General Motors had this big push where anybody could go in and buy a new General Motors product of any type, but that's no longer the case. I want to make sure they understand that too. But they could have bought that at a factory employee, dealership employee pricing basis, correct? Do you remember that?
That's absolutely correct. And I was selling cars back then, and it was, it worked very well. A lot of people came in and bought during that time.
Well, why not? I mean, they didn't have to go through the hassles of negotiations and paying more. They could come in and get an honest price and get out of there and go about enjoying their car instead of not enjoying the process and then not enjoying the car because of the process. But you still offer that, even though that program is long gone.
Absolutely. We treat everybody like their family here. I mean, that's how we do business.
Well, and I think it's interesting because one of the strategies that I understand is that the goal is to become the largest volume dealership, Chevrolet dealership in the nation. And that process of being able to treat customers fairly and quickly, it's really going to accomplish that, because you just don't get that just anywhere. And then, again, I think I want to go back to the fact that you don't have to go through any rigmarole to quote that price. You're completely authorized to give a price and honor it.
150% all the time.
Now, also, for people that don't realize where Yerington is, or so that are new to the area, it's not that far for them to come to see you. Give them approximately how many miles is it from Reno?
I'm 85 miles southeast of Reno. It typically is about an hour and 10-minute drive.
And for, again, we can chop over the phone with you and then just come out to pick it up and drive out of there.
Yes, Mitch, that's exactly how it works here. I've actually delivered vehicles to California, Las Vegas, and all because my price is that quick and that fair.
Well, and one of the concerns we have as a show, and the reason we exist, is as somebody that, and I think you and I had this conversation before. What do you think the odds are, the probability of somebody going and negotiating for that 4-hour routine back and forth and winding up at your price or even $50 less if they're an incredible negotiator?
Have you ever been struck by lightning, Mitch?
I was thinking the same thing. And then if they did save $50 after the grief, it really wasn't a savings. It wasn't worth the money. And we want them to really shift the paradigm of the automotive industry to businesses like yours, where they just support that type of integrity, that type of quality, also. That they stop supporting the others. If they do that, they're going to have to shift the paradigm and imagine the business community that we're left with in the automotive industry. Now, Patty, also, how do they get a hold of you personally?
You can visit the website, which is wildwestchevrolet.com. Not only is there not an internet manager or a sales manager, I'm all of those. I'm the person that answers every internet lead. I answer 90% of the phone calls unless I'm on another phone call. You can reach the dealership directly at 775-463-3456. Or like I said, via the website, I will receive your email, wildwestchevrolet.com, and I do respond.
Now, that's Patty with wildwestchevrolet.com. Worth the drive to Yerington. There is a choice, and it is in Yerington at Wild West Chevrolet. Patty, thanks for joining us, and we hope to have you back on another show in the near future.
Mitch, I'd love to come back on anytime to educate
Thank you so much.
Your